have a but in our lives. So let's not concentrate on the but that is in my life. Worry about the but that is in your life. They had raided many countries and many armies, and they overpowered Israel. And in the midst of overpowering Israel, they took in captivity this slave girl.
That's right.
And they took the slave girl, and I believe the slave girl, because she was taken in captivity, she probably had lost her family. She probably lost her parents and lost her mother and her father. And now that she is in captivity, she was in captivity by the one, which is Lamont. Lamont was the one that led the army that brought her to captivity that may have destroyed her family. And now she is residing in Laman's home. But understand, my brothers and sisters, in the text tonight, the Bible began to let us know that even though this woman was in captivity, she still had a God consciousness about herself. In spite of her surroundings, in spite of what she was going through, she still had a mind to give God praise. She had a mind to recognize the power of God. You see, church, no matter what predicament you find yourself in, you ought not never lose sight of where you come from. You ought not never lose sight of what God has done in your life. The Bible says that she was observing her master. And during this time, a servant, a slave doesn't always talk directly to the master. But the text suggests that she began to talk to the mistress, the wife of Lamont. And she began to reflect on what he was going through, because the Bible says that he was a leprosy. And then looking at him being a leprosy, she said that if the man of God that was in Samaria can get a hold and touch this man, he can be made whole of his leprosy. You see, church, we find in our text tonight that there's faithful thinking. You see, she was faithful unto her master in spite of her being in captivity. You see, the problem that we have today, when God has blessed us, and even though we find ourselves in trying situations, we still are not faithful to our masters. We're not faithful to our bosses. We're not faithful to those that are over us, that have positions over us. Because you got to understand, when we're on the job and we see something out of order, and we walk right past it as if we don't see it. And you begin to say, well, it ain't my responsibility, let him do it, he is the boss. Well, you see, the problem that I have with that is because you ought to do whatever you can while you're there for the glory of God. She recognized that he had a need. She was faithful unto her master. She was faithful unto God. She was faithful to the situation that she found herself in. And the Bible says that the wife began to tell Lamont what was going on. And as she told Lamont what was going on, and this began to ponder in his mind. And as it pondered in his mind, he went before his king. And he began to relate the message of this little slave girl unto the king. But the problem was the king had to send him to Israel. And when he sent him to Israel, Israel understand that had been defeated by the Syrian army. And now the king has sent Naaman with all of these supplies to the Israel, the king of Israel, and the king of Israel found himself caught between a rock and a hard place. He didn't understand why the king of Syria would send him a letter to recognize this man that had leprosy. He didn't understand why he had to be the one that tried to heal this brother that had leprosy. But understand, he had took his mind off the real situation, and he began to think about the things of the past. You see, the problem we have, church, we think too much on the things of the past. Our past hurt, our past issues, what people have done to us, but God is trying to tell you that you got to move forward and get past what's not been done. We can't get past yesterday's hurt. We get upset because what family member, who it is. But when mama's upset with somebody, grandmama's upset with somebody, that don't mean you got to be upset with them. us from moving forward. Or what I love about it, this man was fearful. Fearful thinking will cause you to miss your blessing. Fearful thinking will cause you to sit at home and do nothing versus going out and applying for a job. Fearful thinking will cause you to sit on a pew and do nothing instead of coming into the Lord's house and working in spite of what folks may think about you. In spite of what they may think. You sit there and you don't do nothing for the Lord. You find yourself being complacent out of fear what people may think, and out of fear what people may say. But it was time for this king to move forward. But not only must we recognize